to a special Live at 5 with Hospice Nurse Julie. We have a special guest that you guys are all going to love. I came on a couple minutes early because I just wanted to hype everybody up. Because we have a special guest tonight that's going to answer all of our end of life financial planning dreams. Because I don't know everything. Okay. So it's my first time doing this whole like joined live thing. So we're gonna like see how it goes and mess with it a little bit. We still have like another few minutes, so we're gonna wait, and then we're gonna figure this out together. You know how it goes. You know how I'm not the most technically savvy. Is that the word? Anyway, so one more minute, and then I'm going to see if I can either invite my guest on or she'll invite herself on. This is the part where we're going to be like, wait, what are we doing? How do we do it? um, we'll see if it works. Cross our fingers. And welcome everyone. If you're new, I'm Hospice Nurse Julie. In case you don't know, and I talk all things death and dying. I educate about death and dying. I'm a hospice nurse. And hey, Julie teacher, I missed you guys last week too. Man, migraines have been no joke recently. No joke. No joke. So, welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited for our guest. I believe she'll be here any minute. Um, and I want to wait to like announce, but it's a great subject that we need to hear more about, and she is an expert. We are going to be hearing all about end of life financial planning type stuff. And she's a great resource. I can't wait. Now, this is the first time her and I are doing this together. So we're going to hope we figure it out because Lord knows I don't necessarily know how. I don't necessarily know how. Oh, thank you, Christy. That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. Let's see if I can add a guest. Let's see if I can add her. No, I don't know. I don't think so. We're going to give it like a minute or so and see what happens here. This is the first time like we're doing this together, so you know how it goes. I always got to kind of figure it out. I'm going to do something real quick. Hopefully it doesn't screw anything up here. Okay. I took my phone off do not disturb so I can see if um anyone's messaging me. Welcome everybody. Thanks for your patience. Come on in. It's 5:01. It's a special Hospice Nurse Julie live tonight with a special guest that she is going to talk to us all about end of life financial planning. I can't wait because she will know so much more than I ever could. So hopefully her and I can figure this out. Welcome. Oh, great. There she is. Oh my gosh, is this going to work? It is going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome attorney Pamela Garrett, aka Law Mother.
Hello.
Did I say it correctly?
You did. You
Like
did.
every time I picture your name, I think Law Mother. Like, is it supposed to be like that? Law Mother.
It can be whatever you'd like, Julie. You can call me. You can. I like that spin on it.
Thank you. Is it not like that? How you say it? You say
La mother. No.
it.
Yeah. La mother's good.
I love it. So let me just tell you my origin story with you. I
Okay.
am always talking. So I'm a hospice nurse by trade, and I'm always talking to families and followers about planning, like financial planning at the end of life and how to make it easier. But I am like no expert. But I ran into your page on Instagram, La Mother Co. Right?
La mother CO. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, CEO, La Mother CEO. And you were just doing different things about like all different financial things that I thought were amazing. And then you did one about financial planning at the end of life when someone dies. And I was like, this lady, we need her to talk to us. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of yours, Julie. So happy to be here.
Thank you. So first, before we get started, can you just tell, I know I just introduced you, but can you just tell everybody like a little bit about yourself and like where they can find you on social media and things like that, just to start us off?
Yeah, so my name is Pam. I'm a attorney and based in Colorado, and I help parents and business owners protect what matters most. And on Instagram, I'm Law Mother CO. On YouTube, I'm Law Mother. We're on Facebook as Law Mother. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask, and then we'll get to questions to everybody. So everyone listening, we'll get to questions in the comments. But the first thing I want to say, and maybe this is too broad of a question, but if someone came to your office and said, I'm on hospice, it's getting towards the end, I want to get everything ready. Like,
Hmm.
what does that entail? Like, is that too huge of a question to answer in one thing? Like, what are a few things that you would tell everybody to get in order or how to do it? Like the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say one of the easiest ways to get started is to grab a file folder if you're analog, right? Or
Hmm.
a electronic folder on your computer, but grab a file folder and put the first page of all of your assets. So one of the biggest things that we see that's very stressful for people when you pass away and you have nothing in place is it's really hard for them to figure out what you have and where it is. And one of my friends, she lost her father unexpectedly 2 years ago, and he had nothing in place. And so she was going through all of his mail, computer files, boxes in his basement, trying to figure out where's his retirement account, where is he banking, what are all of his assets, and just looking for everything. She was in the middle of grieving. She had a
Mm,
full-time job. She had young kids. And 2 years later, she's still not sure she found everything. So, one of the biggest gifts you can give to your family to just get started is just get everything organized in one place. Grab a file folder, put the information, start off with a piece of paper. I own this real estate, and these are the addresses. I have these bank accounts at these locations. So many times people come to my office and they have like 30 bank accounts, right? Between them and their spouse at like 12 different banks, right? They don't even know. Even just
exactly.
getting ready to meet with me, we're asking them to do that. So that's why I'm saying that's not really the best thing you can do. What are your life insurance accounts? What are your retirement accounts? What are all those important things? Get them in one place. You get that started, and it's also going to make your experience meeting with a lawyer to set up a plan even easier because our intake process, we're going to ask you for all of that. And I say, every year we all just experience doing our taxes, right? So every
Right.
year when you're doing your taxes, go and look at that folder, make sure everything's up to date. Make sure if you've gotten new accounts, you've gotten new businesses, you have everything in place.
Girl, that's and just so you know, I'm analog. I'm still analog. Even though I feel like I'm on the border, I still want to like piece of paper write it down. Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of girl I am. But that's and people who are listening who think, "Oh, I don't have anything." I think a lot of people think that. I don't have anything. Listen, you'd be surprised, like you said, any bank account, any password, any real estate, anything, anywhere, just put it all in one place. I love that.
Yeah, and then let someone you know, love, and trust know where it is. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing all that data now, just let them know, hey, daughter, brother, niece, best friend, I've got this file with all my important information if something were to happen. There's some really great products on Amazon. I'm not affiliated with any of them, but they're like, oh crap, if I were to die, like they like walk you through if you wanted to start getting some of your thoughts, especially if you're more analog, right? Where you're like, I
Yes.
want to put my wishes around certain things. And then yeah, then the next step is to put together an estate plan. And a lot of people, think estate planning is only for the ultra wealthy, it's only for billionaires and like you described before. It's really for everyone because everyone has something there. to give. And I see a few comments. I put everything on a spreadsheet and put it in my firebox. My son knows where it is. Yes, I love that. And just making sure
Yes.
he knows where it is, that he can get access to that firebox. So many times, um, the other big mistake I see is people set up estate plans and then they don't tell anyone where it is. And then they
Yeah.
pass away and no one can find it,
Oh my
right?
God. Right.
Or they moved, or there was a flood and it got destroyed, and people are calling me like, "You're an attorney. This firm 30 years ago did this, and we can't find it." And so, if you have something in place now, already, making sure it's in a secure location, fireproof, waterproof bag or safe, and you're telling people where it is. If it's in a safety deposit box, people need to know what bank that's at. They need to have access to that. You need to give them access to it. You need to sign off an authorization, a waiver.
Wow. Yes. So much. So everyone's asking, yes, this is being recorded. So when we're finished, this is going to go up on my page, and everything in the description about Pam will be in there, like all of her socials, her website. And you also have a free, is that an online book, Pam?
Um, it's a digital copy of this book, yeah. So the
Yes.
PDF version of this book, Legally Ever After. So everyone gets a copy of that.
That is so amazing. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
so a lot of the questions I'm asking Pam are because like I don't really know. So I want to know too. So and then we'll get to your questions too, because I see questions in here. And if you do have any questions that you really want answered, just hang in there and then write them in all caps too. It always helps. But my question for you is about a trust. Should everyone have a trust? And like when should we do it?
Yeah. So I always say it comes down to your values and what's important to you.
Hmm.
So the main difference between a will and a trust is a will goes through probate, a trust avoids probate. So for many people, if you don't know what probate is, it's a court process where the government is taking control of your assets, a stranger, a judge is making the decisions. It's costly, it's time consuming. And so a lot of people, for them, for their values and what they have, setting up a trust is worth it because, and I'm talking about a revocable living trust. Revocable living trust, revocable, you can change it, living, you're setting up in life. So for many
Okay.
people, um, it's that choice. So a lot of people say, like, do you need to have a certain net worth or do you have to be a certain age to set up a trust? And I don't really subscribe to that. I don't think it's a certain amount of net worth. I don't think it's about an age. It's about your personal decisions and your choices and what's important to you right now, what you want your loved ones to experience. And I feel like in my profession, which is probably pretty similar to yours, many people come to me because they've gone through a horrible experience through the death of a loved one. So their mother or father or sister had nothing in place. They ended up in probate. It was really time consuming and costly and really stressful. And they're like, I don't want my loved ones to have to go through what I had to go through. I want to get everything buttoned up. I want to make things smooth and easy. So, a revocable living trust is a good choice for that reason. And you really can be any age to set it up. You can be, 18. I have some very rare cases. Do I have minors? But I do have minors in certain situations, right? Like a special needs trust, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Minors get in a car accident and they get settlement funds. They get set up, but yeah, you really can be any age. And I think there is a shift right now. More millennials are putting together estate plans. The
Yeah.
age of people putting together estate plans is getting much younger because the millennial generation is seeing what happened. They lived through COVID. They're more aware of it, and um, they want to make sure what happens to their loved ones is taken care of. So yeah, you can be any age, and you don't have to be a multimillionaire to set one up. So yeah.
That this is like so valuable. So someone just wrote because I have this question too, and this is maybe kind of how you what you already answered, but I'm still curious. So someone says, does a bank account go to the beneficiaries listed, or is it frozen and go through probate first? So like let's just say me. Like if I just suddenly died, nothing in order, because I think like listen to me. I'm telling my own I'm telling my own errors, guys. So nothing really no nothing financially really set except for I have beneficiaries, my sister, to like my bank accounts and stuff. So would that just go directly to her, or because I haven't set up a trust, it would go into probate?
That's a great question. So let me just say everything I'm telling you today is legal education and not advice.
Yes,
So
love it.
what's the difference, right? For it to be legal advice, I would need to have that attorney client relationship. I'd be applying the law of your state to your specific circumstance. So this is educational. Nothing I'm saying is saying, hey, you should always work with an attorney in your state. So let me just tell you generally, and it really depends on certain banks, right? So, generally speaking, if you have an adult listed as a beneficiary in a bank account and that adult is alive and of capacity, then that bank account will avoid probate and go to that person.
Okay.
If you have a minor listed on your bank beneficiary, it has to go through probate. So, a lot of, and then it's going to be bank specific. So, a lot of
Hmm.
times, I just had this happen. A colleague of mine, her father passed away. Sorry, her husband passed away, and they had a joint bank account. So they were joint on the bank account. And this friend of mine is actually an estate planning attorney. She thought she knew what was going on. And there have been so many changes by banks because of everything that happened with COVID, because of fraud. It's all for the best, right? It's good. You can debate is it good or bad, but like it's just the reality, right? Everyone's
Right.
cracking down, identity theft, all of that. So she had a joint bank account with her husband, just in their name jointly and not in the name of her trust, just joint bank account with him. He dies unexpectedly. Somehow, through like the hospital and Social Security and everyone, within like a day, the bank gets notified. She is at the grocery store trying to check out to buy groceries. This grieving, unexpected death. And she's getting a call from the bank, and they're like, "We are freezing your bank accounts. We've just been notified. You need to come in." And she's like, "Please just let me pay for these groceries and then I'll come in." Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay." So when you have joint accounts, it's really bank specific. And so I always tell our clients, talk to your bank and ask them these two questions: death and disability, what do you do? And what can I sign in advance to make sure things aren't going to get frozen? And a lot of times, like if you are going to set up a trust, you can hold your bank account in the name of your trust. And a lot of times they won't freeze it and they'll give you access. And you're also going to want a power of attorney if you become incapacitated. Um,
Wow.
Beneficiaries don't get triggered if you become incapacitated, right? So that's one of the big loopholes, right? So people are like, I don't need an estate
Oh.
plan. I don't need a estate plan. I'm just going to put beneficiaries on everything. Let's assume all your beneficiaries are over the age of 18, right? So all my beneficiaries are over 18. I don't need an estate plan. I'm just going to put beneficiaries on everything. Then you become incapacitated. You're not dead. So your beneficiary designations don't kick in. And so it's going to go through probate for someone, for the court to appoint someone to take care of it until you pass away.
Are you guys hearing
So
this? That's seriously like, wow. Yes.
So you want to
Right.
make sure you're getting a comprehensive plan. And so you want to put in place financial powers of attorney. We want to make sure we're putting in place medical powers of attorney. What are your wishes? So we can go into all of that. I don't want to go a lot
Yeah,
of
no,
information
no.
at once. So I want to keep it simple, but
You're
this
right.
is
It can be a lot, but that's really little things like that people don't think of. That's why stuff like this is so important.
yeah, so I
So
think
go
someone
ahead.
asked, is this just the US? So everything I'm talking about is US based. Every country has their own rules around estate planning. Um, I think someone's in the UK. I think those general ideas, like the general ideas of let's make sure everything's organized in one place and you're telling people, that applies wherever you live, right?
Hmm.
The general ideas of going and talking to your bank and finding out what happens, gonna be general. But yeah, as far as it probate and what things I know the UK has trusts. I know the UK has a probate process, but yeah, you're a lot of what we're gonna like the more detailed questions are gonna be US based.
Now, do you take care of not just the finan like like we want someone to have their finances in order, but do you also help families get medical power of attorney and get that organized? Is that like all something you do as well?
Yeah, so whether you're working with me or any estate planning lawyer, estate planning lawyers work on the full comprehensive plan. And we say it's like life and legacy. We want to protect you now if you become incapacitated. We want to protect all of your loved ones, make sure everything's the way. So if you have minor children, if you have special needs children, and medical, financial, legal, all together. If you own businesses, like let's make sure everything's set up. And yeah,
Yes.
so one component of estate planning is like let's make sure everything financially is going to go the way you want, and then the other component is going to be the medical. And when it comes to medical, I know that's your area
Yeah.
of expertise.
Yeah.
It's very state specific,
Yep.
the specific laws around your choices, but the overall takeaway across every state is, and across every state you can designate who you want in charge of your medical decisions, and you can state, what do I want for end of life?
Yes.
Do I want to be on life support? Do I not? And it really just takes the burden off your loved ones in that time. Trying, there's so much conflict when family members are trying to wrestle with those decisions when they don't really know what your wishes are. And so, what a wonderful gift you can give to them by thinking about it now and making
Mhm.
those choices clear. And I don't know if you do you remember the Terry Schiavo case back in the
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the big horror story, right? Back in the
Yes.
90s. So for
Yes.
those of you who aren't familiar with that, Terry Schiavo was, a young woman. She was healthy, and she suffered a cardiac arrest, I believe, and she was in a vegetative state in her late 20s. And she was married, and after several years, I want to say it was like 7 years of her being in this vegetative state, her husband wanted to take her off life support. Her parents did not. And
Mhm.
she didn't have everything set up of what would happen when your family disagrees. And the law doesn't, in most states, the law doesn't say who's in charge. You get to,
Mhm.
if they're conflicting, right? So then it goes to a judge to make that decision. And then it got appealed and it got appealed. And then it became very political,
Yep.
and so wherever I'm not trying to get into politics. I respect everyone along
Right, right,
wherever you
right.
are in that. But it became very political. And it was many, many years, very expensive until so yeah, we don't want that to happen.
I actually, not that this isn't the point of the story, but now I'm just curious. I don't remember what happened. Did they eventually remove the feeding tube and she died?
Yeah, eventually,
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show, like, it's never too early to let people know what you want, and have it legally done by an estate planner, right?
Yeah.
That's like, to me, that's like step number one, right? Step number one, because it sounds like you guys can kind of take care of not everything, but at least help you get the steps, help you get the steps done. Someone says, "Julie, are you okay?" Because I was sick last week. But you guys are so nice. I was really sick last week and I couldn't go live. People are
Mm,
like, "Oh, you're back." So yes, thank you. I am okay. Thank
I'm
you
glad
so
you're
much.
feeling better.
I know. Thank you. I saw some good questions. That's why I'm going back. Do we need to put the house? Okay, so I think I get the question, Amy. I'm going to kind of reword it though. But it says, do we need to put the house on our daughter's name? So I know, yeah.
Ooh,
So I know, like,
yeah.
generally speaking, again, she's just giving advice here. We're not like, or no,
Education,
not advice,
education.
education, not advice, education, not advice. But like, generally
Yeah.
speaking, like, what's that about?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is adding their children to title. So I want to
Mm,
give an example because I think stories help. So I had this really nice woman call me a few years ago, and she had learned about probate, and she was like, I don't want my kids to have to go through probate, so I'm going to add them all to title right now. So she had 3 kids. She added them all on the title of her home back in 2003, and this was like around 2020 she was reaching out to me. Now, she had called me because she had a falling out with one of her kids, and she wanted to remove that child from title, and she was trying to figure out what to do. But I had to let her know the bad news is she created a big tax issue by doing that. So the takeaway, and I'll explain what the tax issue is, but you don't want to add your kids to title unless like they're living with you and there's some like other reason, and you want to be very careful about adding your kids to title while you're alive because of the capital gains tax. So what had happened is she added them in 2003. It's 2020. she's still alive, she's going to live probably another 20 years. That home price, just for example, was, let's say it was like 100,000 when she bought it, and it's going to be like 900,000 when she dies. So her kids are going to have to pay taxes on the gain from the time she added her to they added her to title, which was 2003, which was like maybe like 200,000, till the
Right.
time she die, until they sell it after her death. So they're going to have to pay that capital gains tax on the gain for that.
Yeah.
Whereas because you don't, it's called a step up in basis. So you don't want to add them to title because then they don't get the step up in basis. They have to pay capital gains tax.
Yes.
So in some states, you can add kids as a beneficiary on a beneficiary deed. Some states have ladybird deeds, and sometimes that's an option. There's downsides of that. I can talk about that, but beneficiary deeds generally preserve the step up in basis, but you don't want to add them to title unless you've talked to a tax professional and there's some reason why you're doing it. Like maybe your child lives with you and you're trying to get them qualified and all of that. Can be some exceptions, but normally if it's like you're doing it for probate, they don't live with you, you're creating a big tax issue for them when you die. So so that's the benefit of flowing it through a trust, right?
Okay,
Because
yeah.
it gets this, so the trust, you're avoiding probate, it's flowing through the trust. They're when you die, they get the step up in basis. So they only get taxed on the gain from the time of death to the time of sale, which is normally nothing because you're selling it right away. So yeah, and then if you want me to go into details about beneficiary deeds versus a trust, I can. But like that's kind of the overall idea of why you don't want to add kids to title.
Okay. I think we'll stop. I'm gonna stop it there instead of going into more, just because I want to answer more questions. Um, but it makes me just want to like set an appointment up with you and be like, just do this all. Just take it for me.
Just
I
take
can't
it.
believe there's
Just
people who
take
can do this. I cannot believe it. Okay, I'm gonna try to read what Mama Crow writes. And hopefully this makes sense to you. Okay, what if their only asset, besides bank accounts, etc., is a home? Can they use a TOD, transfer upon death? Oh, that's what you just talked about. Can they use a transfer upon death deed in California? So that's what you were saying. Maybe were you talking
Yeah, and
about that? Kind of.
I will say, like, you should definitely talk to a California estate planning lawyer. California has a lot of nuances around real estate being passed down.
Okay.
There was a proposition that came out in the last couple years and how taxes and how it flows. And so, like, anytime anyone's from California, I'm like, talk to a California lawyer.
Yeah.
Make sure, even if you're doing that. Generally speaking, like across the US, you can put someone as a transfer on death if your state allows it. So some states have it, it's called a beneficiary deed, a transfer on death deed, a ladybird deed. The downsides of those setup is if you're trying to qualify for Medicaid in those states for long-term care, sometimes that can mess that up.
Okay.
Um, Two, if your kid dies at the same time as you or predeceased as you, it's going to go through probate. So there's no contingency planning. And then if you have multiple beneficiaries that you're splitting things up with, it can become really challenging because when you list two kids as a beneficiary, they both have to agree to the sale and it can cause a lot of conflict, especially if one of the kids dies or is, not good with money or any other thing. So the nice thing about a trust is if you put it in the trust, you're incapacity protected. So if you become incapacitated and you need to go on Medicaid and your kids need to sell it, or if you become incapacitated and you need someone to sell it to do something else, they can do that because the beneficiary deed hasn't come into place. And then when you pass away, you can put one person in charge to
Mm.
do the sale. So you can say, hey, I have three kids, but I want my best friend, Susie, to be the person that's going to decide the sale, or I want a unanimous vote about the sale, and I want it split this way. Or I want it like if you were giving it to
So
minor
you can
grandchildren.
really like put in details about how what so kids don't fight and all the
So don't
things.
kids don't fight. And then the other thing is you can do more asset protection, right? So if you want the kids to receive that all of your assets in an asset protected manner, you can flow it through an asset protection trust. So one of my friends, she inherited about 300,000, went through a divorce and lost half of it. but
Mm.
because it was just outright to her. So a lot of times too, I see people passing on real estate and they want it to go to the grandkids and kind of be passed generation to generation. And then what happens is it goes to the daughter, she dies, gets remarried, and never, and then it's lost and the grandkids never get it, right? And so
Mhm.
sorry to talk so much about death, but you're used to
Yeah, no, this is what we're here for.
this is your
That's
jam.
what
Like
we're
if you
here
guys are
for.
all here, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so my point being like if you the other advantage of a trust is we can design it in a way to be set in an asset protected manner. So if you have real estate that you want to be passed on from generation to generation, or you want it to be sold and the money passed down from generation to generation, you can do that as well.
And I think too, it's like I know people think, oh, this can. I mean, of course, it's expensive to do all these things, but it's expensive to not do these things. Even if you don't think again, like you don't think you have something, right, or you don't think you have enough. I just think
Yeah,
it
the
sounds like it's
cost
so much worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah, the cost of doing nothing is, the government's plan for you, which is
Yeah,
costly because it's court costs, attorneys, and every state's a little bit different. Like some states have mandated costs and mandated percentages, but on average across the country, when it goes through probate, it's 5 to 9% of the value of your estate. And so for a lot of people, 5 to 9%, especially like in this day and age when you own a home, going through probate is going to be a lot. And so
yeah,
setting up an estate plan is going to save that money.
yeah. So Janet asks, I don't know if this is too. Oh, can you still hear me? I feel
I
like
can
you look.
still hear you. I
Okay,
see
good.
it. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. You just look
I
frozen.
froze. Yeah, and I like have a really funny facial expression. Sorry guys.
It's okay. Hopefully it picks back up here soon.
I
Okay.
know. I'm like my internet looks good, but I don't want to
So
like there's like a refresh button, but I feel like if I push it, I don't want something bad to happen.
you can try
So,
it. You can always come
okay.
back.
Let me see. No. Uh, let's see. Okay. Let's keep going. Keep going. We'll let it
Okay.
reset.
Okay. As long I can hear you perfectly, so I think we're good. Okay, so
Okay.
Janet says, um, and this might be too personal to you, but I think she actually is asking you specifically. Um, is there a rough estimate for an estate plan, like revocable trust, DPOA? Basically, like what's a rough estimate if you want to do this with an attorney? And then she actually says, "Do you have a telephone consultation, and are you able to do this for people who reside in New York City or in
Yeah.
NYC?"
Yeah. So me specifically, our firm right now is only handles people in Colorado. We
Okay.
are working on the book itself is written to be like national. So you can look at the book and I give resources of like how to compare attorneys and questions to ask attorneys and just how to get started and all of that. And then I give a resource for a website where you can look up attorneys in your state. So I'm only licensed in Colorado. And we're working on it. We may expand. We're working on those. That's the hope to other states. The website personalfamilylawyer.com has attorneys that are like-minded, share values across the country. So in New York, there's some really great firms. So you can look at them. You can put that personalfamilylawyer.com. I would say,
Personalfamilylawyer.com.
yeah.
Personalfamilylawyer.com. Okay.
And then I would say like the price ranges, it can vary depending on the size of your estate, what you're looking for, like what type of protection, how much, is around.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say range, across the country, depending on where you are in the country, I would say like 5 to 8,000 is like a
Okay.
rough range if for the majority of the population. If you own lots of businesses, if you own businesses in real estate, if you're high net worth and you're worried about estate taxes, you're going to be paying more.
Yeah.
And then, we can chat about like what's included, what's not included. Like my firm does everything flat fee and
Okay.
we do everything agreed to in advance. So, some of the shops in our town, we're not the most expensive and we're not the cheapest, but like some of the things that I always tell people to be wary of, or be, is like there's sometimes these like offers where they're like $100 for a trust, call our firm,
Yeah.
$200 for a trust, or, and then they're charging you for everything. Like every time, like all these things you need, they're charging you an hourly fee of like $400 an hour. Um,
Right.
so, and we support people through putting all their assets in the trust, which is very important. So, yeah, it's kind of like a, but I would say that's generally it. Could you spend, like, I see someone say like 2,000 in their in the Midwest in a smaller town. You're like, could you find that? I'm sure there is. But if if you're living in a more like a bigger city and you have more assets, you're going to see those higher ranges, but usually those higher ranges are going to include a lot more than just the documents. They're going to include the
Right.
advice, they're going to include the strategy, they're going to include supporting you through funding, and then some type of process to keep things updated.
Right. Yeah. Right. That makes sense. And then I thought, I'm gonna hit the refresh button real quick, Pam, to see if I can fix it, just to see. If not,
Do you
I'm
want
okay with
do,
it. I just
do you
want
want
you
me
to feel
to
comfortable too.
I'm like, I can exit out. Do you want me to try to exit out and see if that helps?
Yeah. Did you add yourself to the thing, or did I add you? That's the part I didn't know.
I clicked on the link that you sent me.
Okay, great. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's try that again.
Okay. And then I click join, and then I think you approved me. Okay, let's try that again.
Okay, great. You guys, how great is she? Am I right? Like, how great is she? Lawyers are insane in the sense of like, they know so much shit. Like, how do they do this? But yeah, yeah. Someone says realistically, so many people do not have money to pay for a lawyer. I know. How can we do it? How can we do it? Okay, here she comes. And she's back.
We're
I
back. I'm
was
not in that
just
weird.
I was just talking you up. I was like, lawyers are insane. Like, anyone who can be a lawyer, I'm just like, it's a special breed in a good way. Like, you have to know so much. You have to be able to read and, and to remember shit. I don't
I don't know.
understand.
I feel like the medical field. Woo, same thing, right?
Right?
Same
I guess
thing.
that's why we're both doing what
Yeah.
we're meant to be doing.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like the medical field, like, bless you and what you do. Like, I had a loved one who I went through the hospice process with, and I left that experience saying thinking to myself, hospice nurses are literally the best people, the best humans on the planet. Like, I've never
oh,
met more like loving, caring, like you're doing amazing work. So thank you for what you've done. And I'm sure all the people who are on here feel the same way. But the hospice nurses I worked with were just so amazing.
thank you. Thank you. And Amy says, does Pamela Pamela, sorry.
Pamela.
My mom's best friend's name is Pamela, and we always call her Pamela, not Pam. So that's why
Pamela. Yeah. Yeah. You can call me Pamela. It's cool. It's cool. I'll take
but you
that.
have channels. Tell everyone here, tell
Woo.
204 people about all of your channels because you're a wealth of information and we got to know.
Yeah. So on YouTube, I'm Law Mother. So you can find me on YouTube
And all
that
the
way.
stuff's in the description too. Of this video, once it's on my page, it'll all be in the description. You can actually click on it, just FYI. But go ahead.
Yeah. And then Instagram, Law Mother CO. And then Facebook, we're Law Mother. So yeah.
And then you have a website too, right?
Yeah, so my one that's like more national where you can get like the free copy of the book is lawmotherco.com.
Okay, great. A free copy of the book. Did you guys hear that? That's amazing. So Julie Teacher, one of my followers, who I love all my followers, but I specifically remember Julie because she's like, Nurse Julie, I'm Julie Teacher. So Julie Teacher says, my dad had a trust about 15 years ago.
Hmm.
Oh wait, no, Julie, I missed your other question. It's kind of the same thing. I know, hold on. It's about her dad and the trust. Hold on.
Mm. Is that the one? I have the laws changed, and do we need to look at it again?
It says, my dad has a trust, so now I found out I should not have my name on the house. Is the house covered under the trust? Oh, okay, so if your dad has a trust, you probably don't want the name on the house, so it can be in the Just the
Yeah, so
trust?
typically, and obviously your dad should confirm with his attorney that did
Yes.
everything, but
Yes.
ideally, assuming the attorney agrees, the trust name should hold title on the house. Um, unless there's some reason that the attorney decided to do it in a different way, and then they would have them explain to you that. And then I think the idea that it was done 15 years ago, should we look at it again? I think that's a good idea. Like, I usually recommend, every state's different. In Colorado in 2019, our laws drastically changed. And so it's a good idea to refresh to take advantage of your current laws. Um, I usually say you want to refresh your estate plan after any major life change.
Okay, yeah.
And then, you know, look at least every 3 years. So I think if it was 15 years ago, probably you should look at it and see, hey, do I still agree with everything that I did 15 years ago? And then talk to the attorney that did it in that state and say, hey, are there any new laws that we want to take advantage of? Kind of like new building codes, right? Like there's new building codes,
Mhm.
there's some new laws. And then I will say for financial power of attorneys, which are the financial power of attorney is a document that is, I'm incapacitated. This person can step in and make my financial decisions. Most institutions want to see those signed at least every 3 years to see them valid. So,
Okay.
at a minimum, you'll want to at least, even if it's a duplicate of the POA from 15 years ago, you'll want him to re sign and notarize it at least every 3 years to make sure they accept it.
Perfect. Okay, so Rosa asked, I'm working on medical power of attorney and a living will. I'm working on my medical power of attorney and living will on a fill out style form in Nevada. And she wrote, any tips? So I might be kind of hard because it's in Nevada, but like in general, if someone is just kind of trying to do it online, fill out the kind of basic stuff. Um, what do you think's most important? Like, is it really important to get an attorney involved and like have them make sure things are accurately done? Or because I think what happens is people start and then it's kind of overwhelming and they don't necessarily finish it or tell people about it.
Yeah. So I think it's hard, right? I
Hmm.
think that
Yeah.
I'm a little biased because I'm a
Yeah.
lawyer and this is my career. And so I see all the things that go wrong when people do it themselves
Yeah.
online. So it's your comfort level. I think my tip would be, if your values are, hey, I'm concerned if this is going to protect my loved ones the way that I want it to, I think it's a good idea to have it reviewed by an attorney in your state. And if, you know, there are more budget options in your state. So if you're like, I don't want to, if you want to work your way up, you can try to find a more budget option in your state. But I mean, we're talking about your life decisions and everything that you've collected in your entire life and making sure your choices are honored. It's yeah, I mean, I can tell some horror stories. I don't want to scare people, but I think like the that would be the tip because what coming
Yeah.
from me is, if it's
Me too.
worthwhile, it's worth like it's having the professional look at it. I mean, for me, when I purchased a home and when I sold a home, I worked with a real estate agent because I was like, I'm going to get a better deal. I'm going to save money. I'm going to save time. Like for me, it was worth the investment. So if you're someone who works with professionals, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's like do it yourself medicine, but like we don't go and diagnose ourselves on, I mean, a lot of us do, but we know what
Yeah.
we're gonna get when we diagnose a
Yeah.
son with MD, like, you get what you pay for, so,
Yep.
um, even really simple stuff, I've seen people mess it up because these are legal documents. That being said, I know there are some people who will never work with lawyers, and so I would say, read my book, it's free, um, that will give you some tips and some things to think about. And then get everything organized. And then if you feel comfortable, I would say go with that next step. If you're never going to work with a lawyer, then I would say, doing it yourself is better than nothing in some cases, but sometimes it's not because sometimes people make even more mistakes than if the default, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, Yeah, to me, I feel like it's the same. Like it's kind of a no-brainer. Like in my book, where I talk about planning for death, like I'm always like, first step, talk to a lawyer. First step, talk to a lawyer. Just because you need to. There's sometimes there's not that there's no way around it, but that's probably the best way, even though most people try to avoid that. So just so everyone understands, the reason why poor Barbara, I'm so sorry, honey. So I have a production team on my YouTube page that plans for all the lives coming up. And just because of my schedule and what's been going on in my life, I forgot to tell them that I was having Pamela on. Attorney Pamela. So that's why there was one live that was like the regular live, and then there's this live. And the reason why we're so close to the screen, everybody, is because we're on our phones, because in order to do a joint live, we have to do it via phone per YouTube. I don't know. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it is live right
it is
now.
live. Yes, it is live, but we're on our phone, so that's why the image looks a little different. And that's why I think some people were confused with like, why is this live different? Anyway, I'm just explaining to people because I'm reading their comments and I feel bad. They're like, what's going on?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. You're kidding. This is like the best thing ever. It's just thank you for educating me and everyone else. I'm looking through the questions now. Is there anything some of the stuff I kind of want to ask you, Pam, is there anything that like we haven't touched on that you're like, this is what, and if we have touched on it all, we can just go through questions. But is there anything that you haven't said now that's something you like always say to everyone? Or like some videos that you've done that you know a lot of people really like? Because I love your videos on Instagram about explaining the law. But anything like that that we've missed so far as like what people need to do to help themselves now.
So I think if on my Instagram channel, I think one of the ones that's the most popular is about transferring your house to your children and kind of the step up in basis. So what we just talked about, like
Mm.
I have that one pinned to the top, and
Yeah.
every time I talk about that topic, people are like, they don't realize the tax implications. So I think it's like, don't add your kids to the title of your house.
Yeah.
So that's one of the top ones. I think the other one is like how to avoid frozen bank accounts, which we've kind of touched on a little bit today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people get married in this day and age and they have separate bank accounts. And they
Yeah.
don't realize that because their spouse, if they were to become incapacitated today, that their spouse doesn't automatically get to enter into their bank account. They have to go to a judge and get access. And that there can be some conflict and issues. So I think that's kind of a big one for the married folks on here is making sure, if you want to keep your bank accounts separate, do it. But then just make sure you talk to the bank about those two things, death and disability. What do I need?
Death and
And if you work with an
disability.
and if you work with an estate planning attorney, they're going to get you covered on all of that. Um, and then I think the other thing is to think of this estate planning conversation that it's not a one and done thing. I think that's the biggest mistake I see people making is they go and put together a plan, they put it on the shelf, they feel great, and then 20 years goes by and they die and they had never updated it. And so like nothing is going the way that they want it to because they got married or they had kids or
Yes.
someone's XYZ happened. So I think that's like the big thing is like checking, getting in the habit when you do your taxes every year, updating your asset inventory, reviewing your plan, get keeping having that mindset that it's going to be an evolution so that it works. I think the number one fear, the number one reason people don't put together a plan is fearing that talking about your death is going to make it happen sooner.
Yep.
And so hopefully we can take that stigma out and
Exactly.
um, I've never seen any connection of someone putting together a plan and something
Me
happening.
either. If
So
anything, things go better. It's when they live better and die better. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And I think that, I'm still shocked by the statistic that, only 30% of people have any plan in place,
Yeah. That sounds
So
like even high for me. That sounds like, I mean, most people I work with like do not, especially have they don't have trust. They might have like um medical power of attorney and stuff, but as far as like having a trust and having things organized, I mean, I don't know what the you said it's 30%. That's not like to me. I feel like most people
You're like
don't.
100% of
Yeah,
people.
100% of people aren't
Well,
doing that.
70% of people have nothing. So
Yes.
70% have nothing,
Yes.
30% have something. But yeah, that's like from a will, like they have like any document in place.
Right.
I would
Oh,
say
can
like
I say one thing? Only
yeah,
because I want people. The one thing that has really struck me about what you're talking about is the incapacitated part. Like, not just death, not just death and dying. This is, you never know when you might be incapacitated, unfortunately, right? And this goes to show, even if you're on hospice and you're still, so many people I talk to, oh, not yet, not yet. I'm okay for now. We'll do that later. Maybe we'll do it. And then next thing you know, they're not waking up or they're not fully conscious and now they can't do it. So like now is the time. Now is the
yeah.
time. Is the
Yeah, and I don't know if everyone followed the Britney Spears, Free Britney, everything that happened with Britney.
I did ish. I
Yeah.
did ish.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the unfortunately the court systems across the country and the laws around it and everything. Like you want it to be your choice. You don't want
Mhm.
things and that type of abuse happens with a
Yeah.
lot, when people
Yeah.
don't have a plan in place, young like when they're healthy.
Yeah. We didn't really touch on this, but it's probably the same thing as far as like medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, and then also, do you work with like them to get mortuary plans involved and things like that, or is that like a whole separate thing?
Yeah, so a lot of estate planning attorneys, we have like a remembrance document that we give them where you can put all of those wishes in.
Okay.
So, like, what are your wishes around mortuary, around cemetery, cremation, your service? We call it at our office, we call it the date night document. We're like, sit down with your
Yeah.
spouse and let's plan out the funeral
Yeah.
of your
Yeah.
dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, some people come to me and they're working with a specific funeral home and they've already done all of their pre-planning. And so I'm like, okay, just document. Some people never do it. So I would say like we definitely encourage our clients to fill out that paperwork. It does, take a lot of burden off the loved ones, the more decisions you can make. I I've taken a lot of tours of mortuaries and cemeteries in my area just
Mhm.
because I'm in the field. And I know my parents just did all of that planning. And so I feel like some of the like mortuaries and cemeteries here, they're like, oh my gosh, like if you can just go and like make your decisions ahead of time, then you pass away and your kids they just show up and everything's paid for, taken care of. They don't have to make like 200 decisions
I know.
right then. They like know what your choices are. So I think it can be a really great tool for
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you. Okay, a couple more questions. We're almost done here, you guys. We have like 9 more minutes. So if
Woo.
you have any last minute questions for the law mother, I have to. I can't. I
I
just love it.
almost
And
I
listen, you
um
guys, you have to go find her on all of the channels. Instagram specifically, she wears different wigs. She has different voices. Like, she brings out all the stops for these videos. And she doesn't
thank
just
you.
talk about death and dying plan, end of life planning. You talk about all types of financial planning, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, you guys. I don't know. No one, nothing. I can't tell if like people aren't asking questions or if it's just delayed. Sometimes it's delayed and like 50 million questions will come through.
Yeah. I'm gonna start organizing this stuff tonight. Yay!
Janet, that's what we like to hear. That's amazing.
Um,
Well, listen, tell us, no more delay. Okay, well, I guess you guys just like hearing us talk to each other. Um, so tell us, I want everyone to know one more time where they can find you and where they can get the free book your free book, if they want it. And I'm just so grateful that you did this, and you're just so easy and agreeable, and I just really really appreciate it because you just gave
oh,
everyone so much amazing information.
yeah, thank you so much. This is been so much fun. Thank you everyone for participating and all your great questions. Yeah, so the book is Legally Ever After, the 6-step plan to protecting your children's future and happiness. Little Cinderella theme throughout.
Love
That's kind
it.
of the theme of it. You know, we all know the Cinderella story. So I kind of always say, your loved ones don't need a fairy godmother and a prince. They need you to put together a plan, right? We all know what happened to Cinderella. She got really bad end of the deal until that happened. So,
I'm like, what did happen to her? Yeah. She had
uh,
mice for friends. She was she
yeah.
had anyway.
So yeah, Law Mother on YouTube, Law Mother CO on Instagram, lawmotherco.com.
I love
And
it.
then for the book, and then you can also just DM us the word book on Instagram. We'll send you the link.
Oh,
Um,
great. Okay.
yeah, so I see what Christy said. You've motivated me to finish what I started with my estate planning. Yay! It's one
Yes.
of those things
Good.
people tend to put off until it's too late. So I'm glad we gave you that little extra. Okay, I asked earlier about how to help my mom get her half of the house set up to go to me, her only child. My uncle and her do not speak and it won't go easy. I'm not completely understanding
Mm.
that question. Are you understanding that question?
Hold on.
Was there an earlier question?
I probably didn't see it. Sorry, Angela. I asked earlier about how to help my mom get her house.
I think what I'm understanding, like, does
Yeah,
your
so it sounds like they have her uncle and her mom have own a house together, right? And then she's
yeah,
supposed to get half of it. And
yeah, so
then
you definitely want to talk to an attorney in your state and make sure that's clear. That so that would.
yeah.
So typically, um she can hold title joint with right of survivorship. That would not go to you, right? So joint with right of survivorship means your mom dies, it goes to the uncle. Your uncle dies, it goes to the mom. Tenants in common means it goes to the heirs, right? So holding it tenants in common would go to the heirs, but it would go through probate. So yeah, we want to make sure that title's correct. You want to make sure you work with an attorney in your state to make sure title's correct and that there's a clear estate plan. So whether it's tenants in common, it's going to go through probate and it's a will, or there's a trust that outlines it. That's very, very important.
Right,
Um,
and it sounds like too, and Pam, that like something like that that's probably complicated, especially if there are like people who don't speak and people are not, you probably really should speak to a lawyer in your area,
yeah,
right? So they
yeah.
could
It's
really
going to
give you
be
the ins
more
and outs.
expensive if you don't handle it now because it's going to be litigation down the road. So yeah, if it's something like that, you definitely want to speak with a lawyer in the state that the mom is a resident. Um,
Okay, but the mom is the
would
resident.
mhm. Advanced directives, are they good? Yeah. So, advanced directives, also known as a living will in some states, are your health decisions. Do you want to be on life support for how long? Every state sets them out in different ways and has different questions, but they're good because you're laying out your wishes around all of that. And if you don't have it
Okay.
in place, then people tend to struggle trying to figure out what you want.
You're right. And an estate planning attorney, that's what you would call yourself, yes,
Yes.
could help you with that, and on
Yes.
top of that, the financial part of end of life planning as well,
Yep.
which
They
I
can help
think
with both.
is yeah,
Hmm.
which I think is so because everyone keeps kind of probably joining and then leaving or joining late. It's important even if you think, because I know my parents always think, "Oh, I don't have anything." People always think it's only for, like you said, really wealthy people, and that's just not true. And I've seen that so many times in my line of work, people being just sort of super stressed, once someone dies or when they're dying.
Well, and the irony too is like a lot of the wealthy people don't put it together either. Like a lot of celebrities don't put together plans and their loved ones. So, yeah, it's
Wow.
definitely a really good gift you can give your loved ones. Thank you for subscribing, Amy.
Yeah, I know. Yes, please go subscribe to her. She's so great. So Sally, the name of her book is
Legally ever
Legally
after.
Legally
Legally
Ever
ever after.
After. So
Yeah,
cute.
I guess I am this is this backwards for you right
No,
now?
I see it. I
Okay.
see it
Okay.
normal.
Okay.
And then the last question, and then we're gonna have to go. What does she think about people paying into a program so they will be covered when they're older? Do you know what I mean?
Are you saying like a What type of program?
Yeah, what
Like
type of
a
program,
is it
Julie?
like is it like a
Like
long-term care
long-term
insurance?
insurance? Oh my god,
Long-term
do you
care
know anything
insurance.
about that, Pam?
Long-term care insurance?
Yeah, do you know anything about that? I don't really.
You know, for people who have long-term care insurance that got many years ago, it covers a lot.
It does, okay.
These days, the coverage isn't the same. If
I was
it's
just gonna say.
expensive, it's expensive these days. If you can afford it, there's some good options, but I also know it's expensive for some people. I think if you are, 50 to 60 is a good time. I'm
Yep.
not I don't sell
No, no, that's what.
long-term
So
care, but I would always
you,
defer.
I feel like I have to talk to insurance. Talk to like I'm gonna have to have like an insurance agent on here or something because
Yeah,
like no one
come
really
talk
knows,
about
and
it.
it really depends on what you're buying into. I do
Yeah,
find that like some people bought into
yeah,
things a long time ago, and the program wasn't good, and they didn't really look into what they were buying into, and then it doesn't really give
yeah,
them anything, right? And
yeah,
then some are really great. So I think it just really depends on, and the really
yeah,
great ones are probably really expensive, right? So you have to really
yeah.
look into what they're actually going to provide because yeah, that's the kicker.
Yeah. It's not my area of expertise, but I would say it'd be a good thing to, ask for, like, if you are working with an estate planning lawyer, you can ask them for referrals of good insurance brokers in your area that they
Yeah.
trust. Or you can ask a friend for a good referral for insurance brokers in their area. Chat with a few different ones. I always say anytime you're making a big financial decision in your life, ask for recommendations.
Yeah.
Look at the Google reviews, look
Yeah.
at the Better Business Bureau, like, do that holistic look and then do the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. It is 6 o'clock on the dot. And I always gotta go right at 6. But Pam, wow. Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you to everyone who joined. And man, it's just been really great. I've learned so much from you just
Thank you
in a
so much,
short
Julie.
time.
This was so much fun. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone. It was really great to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later, okay?
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.